episode number 285 of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. On today's episode, I welcome Dr. Angela Thayer and Julie Simon as they discuss their book, Getting to Baby, and the importance of nutrition and lifestyle in fertility. Dr. Angela Thayer is board certified in reproductive endocrinology and infertility, OBGYN, and lifestyle medicine. She is a founding partner of Seattle Reproductive Medicine. Dr. Thayer completed her undergraduate education at Duke University Medical School, at the University of Cincinnati College of Medicine, residency at Oregon Health and Science University, and fellowship at the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio. She completed the culinary coaching program through the Institute of Lifestyle Medicine in 2020 and became a certified plant-based chef in 2022. She and Judy Simon created the Food for Fertility program and have co-authored the book, Getting to Baby, a food-first fertility plan to improve your odds and shorten your time to pregnancy, which highlights the best foods to optimize fertility. And Judy Simon is an award-winning registered dietitian nutritionist who specializes in reproductive health. She is the founder of Mind Body Nutrition and a clinical instructor at the University of Washington. Judy's expertise includes fertility, PCOS, eating disorders, weight-inclusive medicine, and reproductive health. Judy has held leadership roles in the American Society of Reproductive Medicine Nutrition Special Interest Group and is a fellow of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. Judy integrates mindfulness, intuitive eating, eating competence, while taking a non-judgmental, inclusive approach to help people have healthier, more fertile lives. Judy is the co-founder of Food for Fertility program and co-author of Getting to Baby, a food-first fertility plan to improve your odds and shorten your time to pregnancy. Welcome to the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. I'm Michelle, a fertility acupuncturist here to provide you with resources on how to create a wholesome approach to your fertility journey. Welcome to the Wholesome Fertility Podcast, a space where you can find empowerment on your fertility journey. I'm your host, Michelle Orovitz, and I wanted to pop in before we get started to mention that if you haven't already heard, I've released my new book, The Way of Fertility, that has been created for those who have tried everything to conceive and are simply unsure of what else they can do. This book shares tried and true wisdom from ancient teachings along with modern research that supports much of what has been taught for centuries. It has been made with love, and the stories shared will serve to awaken hope within you. If you'd like to give it a test drive, I offer the first chapter for free, and you can find a link with more information in the episode notes. I would also like to extend an invitation to you as part of our beautiful community to share your thoughts and experiences by leaving a review of the podcast. Your words have incredible power to inspire others who are also seeking comfort on their fertility journey. And for anyone who has already left a review, thank you from the bottom of my heart. So Angela and Judy, welcome.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We're excited to be here, Michelle.
So I'd love for you guys to give a background first. I'm very excited to be talking about your new book, Getting to Baby. I would love for you first to share your background so people can know more about you and what got you to doing this type of work.
Okay, sure. I'm a reproductive endocrinologist and infertility specialist. So first I trained in OBGYN and then specialized in reproductive endocrine and infertility. And then I got board certified in lifestyle medicine. So, which is a more holistic kind of way to look at all healthcare, more of a preventive lens of like, how can we look at lifestyle measures to really help people in all phases of their life. And I've always been interested in food, nutrition, exercise. And so over the years, it just became a bigger and bigger part of my practice. And I've always been interested in obviously hormones, but metabolism. And Judy and I started working together at the University of Washington. And we found we had this common interest in really helping women, work together to improve their nutrition and health, which subsequently leads to improvement in their fertility.
Oh, totally.
And I'm a registered dietitian, as Angela mentioned, and my master's is in community health education. And I sort of went through traditional training. And when I came back and re-entered, medicine, gosh, about 20-ish years ago, all of a sudden, PCOS and all these things that I had never really learned about just came front and forward. And so I was fortunate to connect up with Angela and really do the deep dive into, hey, what do we know about insulin resistance? How is this affecting fertility? And these were things that traditionally I hadn't been taught. So really, I think we kind of joined each other's worlds. I joined American Society of Reproductive Medicine and, joined all the fertility docs, and, Angela would come to the nutrition conferences. So we did a lot of cross pollination. And from that, we went off and both started into private practices. And she'd refer these amazing patients. And we decided, wow, we're seeing them one at a time. Wouldn't it just be the coolest thing if we could start classes? So, about 12-ish years ago, we started the Food for Fertility classes, where we brought women in who were trying to conceive. Many of them had PCOS, endometriosis, unexplained, lots of different diagnoses. And that's where we brought the food and the people and the lifestyle into the classroom, which is really why we wrote the book. It's kind of, we took all our years of experience, science and knowledge, and said, let's make it accessible to more people.
That's awesome. And so talk about the book. What's in the book? And obviously it's for people trying to conceive, getting to baby. What were the top things?
Yeah. Well, we started off by, kind of, we always want people to understand the whys, why this, why that, what's the connection? What's the underlying biology and physiology? And then what evidence do we know? A lot of nutritional studies about fertility are observational studies. Like
Mm-hmm.
a population will be observed and they'll say, okay, people who ate these kind of diets or these kinds of foods had higher fertility and more successful outcomes than people who ate this kind of diet. So, we wanted to present all that information so people kind of have background and good knowledge and can kind of say, oh, okay, well, maybe that would be a good idea for me. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, it's a broad spectrum of what, a good diet could look like. It's not just one thing. Obviously, mainly plant forward, because I think we all need to eat more fruits and vegetables and plant based foods. But there is room, for some animal foods too, especially things like fish and whole fat dairy, which have shown to increase some fertility benefits. So, we kind of go through all the food groups and talk about where we have evidence, what's good, what's not so good, and what vitamins and minerals and nutrients they're adding. And
Mm-hmm.
then, some of the biggest things were like, if you want to incorporate this, it's a how to, right? So
Yeah.
we wanted to make it like accessible in this sense that anybody at home could be like, oh, okay, I just want to add one little thing this week. What would I add?
Yeah.
What's my takeaway? What's my SMART goal? So people can kind of set their own goals and try to move forward with that, making a little progress at a time. And then the greatest thing I think is sharing stories from our
Yeah.
patients who are just fabulous women who've been on their own journey. And we had so many stories, we couldn't even share them all in the book, but kind of telling these journeys that sometimes took months, sometimes took years, and how they were able to incorporate changes and see changes in themselves and feel increased energy, and then kind of have improved fertility. Maybe if they had a partner, their
Mhm.
partner's health was also improving at the same time. And so many of them were successful either with natural conception, or if they were in fertility treatments, having better success in those treatments and making better quality embryos, that we were like, wow, that's
That's
really what's in the
incredible.
book. So as much as we could share and keep it accessible and reasonable in length, that's what the book's about.
I found it very user friendly, and I really enjoyed the image of the plate and how half of it was greens, which is great because I do believe that it's so important to get the greens, and there's so many nutrients that you can get from that. And you talked about some misconceptions too, like on treating PCOS and like common misconceptions on what to eat for fertility. So I'd love to touch upon that.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we tried to bring out in the book is when we first started doing our classes, a lot of the reasons women would be referred to us is we'll just go lose weight. So
Mm,
nothing, focusing on their health. And we're like, oh, no, 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 this is not a weight loss class. This is totally about how to nourish yourself and actually take away the shame and guilt in, whatever size body you have, being able to get the benefits of the nutrition and the lifestyle, right? So, for example, there's a lot of people that would come in with a whole list of foods that they thought they shouldn't eat because somebody told them that. And
mhm.
we're like, well, are you allergic to them? No. Well, okay. Here's a safe place to try them. And that's what we tried to do in the book, like showing in all these different, sure, maybe you can't tolerate dairy. Here's a sub. Here's something else you can place out so that everybody would feel included, that anybody could be in the classes, read the book, and really get the benefit out of it. So when you talk about myths, probably the biggest one is, so many women are told, cut out carbs, cut out carbs. And we're like, oh no. Well, what's in whole grains and ancient grains? Well, those inositols we hear about in PCOS? Guess where they come from? White beans, buckwheat. So we're saying, where can you get these? Ancient grains are just so filled with minerals and also really showing that, looking at the quality of carbs that you're choosing most of the time is actually going to be beneficial.
Right.
And this is kind of
Yeah.
relief for women to hear, like, I don't have to starve myself. I get to eat and try new things.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And also, because a lot of times when people have carbs, it's simple carbs or juices where you're taking
Hmm.
basically, even if it's fresh juices, like we're really meant
Hmm.
to have the whole fruit, right? The
Hmm.
fiber, like, and
Yep.
digest it slowly so that it's not a sugar spike. I would love for you to talk about that too, the importance of actually having the whole food.
Yeah, we definitely talk about kind of it being a whole food diet because that is so important. And the issue with, I mean, yes, you can get some of the nutrients if you juice, but you're also going to get mainly sugar without the fiber if you've removed the fiber. So the fiber is so important, both to slow down your digestion and really pay attention to gut health. And I know you focus a lot on gut health. That's where so much of our health overall starts. And there's so many connections between the gut and the mind and the body and the hormones and everything else, every system. And
Mhm.
so having that fiber in your diet really from whole foods, I mean, especially plant-based foods, right? Because animal foods don't have fiber, but the plant-based foods really then is great food for the microbiomes. The microbiome, our microbiome and the bacteria, the 3 trillion bacteria that live in our gut, and it helps create, it's more anti-inflammatory because so many people kind of can get almost a chronic inflammation from not eating enough fiber, not feeding their microbiome. And then that can lead to more issues in more body systems that they may not even be aware of. But nobody is, advertising Whole Foods. Like Whole Foods, so much of what people see and kind of the noise that feeds in is just everything else that's marketed in a box or a bag or somebody. And so sometimes those help people put health claims on other products that aren't Whole Foods, and then Whole
Mm.
Foods kind of get neglected. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, we definitely want to say, it's important. And we talk about eating the rainbow and the colors because each color is providing different phytonutrients. And so, you want that broad range because the more diversity you have in your fruits and vegetables, the more diverse a microbiome you're going to develop, the better protection for your immune system, and just make everything else work better in your whole body.
I love that you talk about diversity because actually a lot of
Mhm.
people end up developing sensitivities, even if it's healthy food, that they eat all the time. And it's
Mhm.
important to have diversity because it really allows the body to get so many different benefits and also not get too intolerant of one specific thing. The body likes diversity.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And we really wanted people to feel inclusive with the book. So that's why there's so much culinary medicine like just basic skills. Here's how you can throw something together without even a recipe, just
Hmm.
really, 5 steps to a great salad. What should it have? Different things like that. And we also wanted it to really highlight all the global cuisines. And so,
Mm.
for example, I see a large population of South Asian women, right? And so they're always worried like their diet's too high in carbs. And we talk about what are all the wonderful things, the herbs that you're using, the dals, the pulses. But we tried to make sure we had things from all regions because unfortunately, a lot of people here in the medical world, like, oh, just eat the Mediterranean diet. We're like, oh, no, 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 wait. That's so exclusive. It's not inclusive. We want to talk about, foods from, West Africa or Central America, a lot of the indigenous healthy foods, and then also what's seasonally available. And so
Yes.
one of the things that we really tried to share is a lot of different types of foods, simple preparation, but let people start where they're comfortable. So if you're a chef that only has 3 or 4 recipes and you're still sort of using some of processed foods, maybe they'll start with adding a soup or adding some vegetable dishes or adding a salad and letting them know you're going to get benefits from those first steps. Because some people feel like I just talked to someone, just, I'm trying to be all in, trying to be
They get
perfect. Do you know what I mean?
intimidated. Yeah.
And that's stressful. It's stressful to
It's
feel
just,
like
yeah.
you're getting a grade on your diet. And we want people to feel like it's fun. They're having a date night with their partner, and maybe they're trying a new recipe in the book or they got inspired because there is a lot of pressure when people are trying to conceive. And the book is also for those people who are like, hey, we want to get pregnant in the next year. What's the path to a healthy pregnancy? We have no idea how long it's going to take, but what's going to prepare us? And Michelle, that like 50% of pregnancies are unplanned. So a lot of people, maybe they're exposed to a lot of those fertility disruptors. And if they would have known even a few months in advance, they could have decreased some of the risks, that could impact their fertility and pregnancy.
Definitely. I remember seeing something. It was about a burger or like chicken sandwich or something. It was a sandwich with a bun that the woman just kept in her closet and just saw what happened. And it was not breaking down. And I'm like, whoa, that is crazy. Like things are supposed to break down. If they don't break down and they don't like, yeah, just break down, like what happens in your body? So, talk about the importance of eating whole foods. Listen, we're going to have processed food once in a while. It's not like, end all be
Oh,
all. Like,
sure.
it's not one thing or another,
Hmm.
obviously. But talk about the importance of really being intentional about choosing more whole foods in your diet.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that everybody's so different in what they eat. But
Hmm.
I think that, yeah, the ultra processed foods and processed grains, so like breads, cereals, pastas, anything, it's just so it, it's everywhere, right? It's you can't get away from it, and it's become normalized.
Hmm.
And so it has become acceptable and ordinary. And the problem with those foods is, yeah, you don't need to say I'm not never going to eat that again, but it replaces it. It takes the place of whole foods. And so I think, where do you get whole foods? Well, it's hard to get whole foods, if you're buying foods at convenience stores or fast food restaurants or even regular restaurants. Sometimes I'm surprised that menus don't have kind of like more vegetables available. When we talk about the fertility plate
Hmm.
and the whole plate being half vegetables, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to get that in a restaurant. Like the restaurant usually, so we have talked to women. We didn't really talk about this that much in the book, but like I think some of the women gave us examples of, planning when you go to a restaurant. Gosh, what can I eat from this menu that would be more of a whole food? What are sometimes the side vegetables or something they'll
Hmm.
order from, some of those things, to say like, yeah, I don't need to necessarily go for the most indulgent, luxurious meal. I want to go for the whole foods because I know that's what my body needs. So when we talk about being intuitive eater or competent eater, it, I don't think this is taught well in schools. So, to be honest, it's nobody's fault, like where you are. It's a growth opportunity for everybody to be like, hey,
Hmm.
I didn't really get this education growing up. My parents worked. I didn't cook that much growing up, but now I'm an adult And I need to really learn about nutrition and what my body needs and how to heal myself through food. And what that might mean is I need to cook more. And if I don't know how to cook more with whole foods, you know, there's opportunities to learn. There's so much now available on YouTube,
It's
or
true.
that's
Yeah.
both good and not so good, but you can
Yeah.
find the good things and learn to cook with whole foods and buy things like our book, which are trying to teach people almost some intuitive cooking skills, because you don't always want to be cooking from a recipe.
Hmm.
You want to get some basic staples and some comfort in the kitchen and some things you really are good at, and then always build new and add new. But yeah, so that was like one of the tenets of our philosophy of
Hmm.
how we taught was, let's talk about, building a meal. Let's talk about what vegetables are going to be in the meal, what protein is going to be in the meal. And for us, that was mainly going to be a plant-based protein. So either beans, lentils, tofu or tempeh or edamame, so a soy-based protein, or fish, since all of those have been shown to increase fertility. And then whole grains, those ancient grains, so not processed, and kind of putting that all together, and nuts and seeds and other things that provide those denser nutrients. And really starting with like cutting things up, like, okay, let's prep everything. Let's do the mise en place. Let's get everything ready. Let's plan meals. So you're going to have leftovers because it takes work and effort. You don't want
Hmm.
to put all that effort in and then only eat once. So you want to
Yeah.
have some
True.
leftover meals that you can repurpose throughout the week, or freeze some of these meals that you're going to be able to then thaw out next week or next month when you're more time pressed, and you've got your own freezer meal that you've prepared that you're going to be able to thaw out and cook and have a nutritious, delicious, quick meal, right? So I think it's a mindset, right? It's
Oh,
a different
totally.
way to think.
Yeah.
And everybody can get there and just build that knowledge and build those
Hmm.
skills, and that's exciting.
It is exciting.
It,
I find that whenever you're learning something new, like you make it more complicated in your mind. You're like, "Oh, I have to do this whole thing." But you don't realize like as you learn it, you could really strategize and make it so
hmm
much easier and cheaper. You
hmm
could save money that way.
Absolutely. Michelle, you bring up a really good point. And what's really fun is a lot of the women who've taken classes or patients of ours, like even after like 2 years after they have their baby, I'll get an email. I saved all those recipes from class and I still love the quinoa mango black bean salad. It's so delicious in the summer. I take it to parties, or one patient just wrote me about the soca bread made out of chickpeas, that they start to add them to their repertoire. We want to increase their self-efficacy, their confidence, and their competency. And then when they do eat out, maybe they do broaden and they go for an Indian meal or an Asian meal, and they know like, hey, I'm going to order one whole vegetarian so I get more broccoli and veggies. Like they know how to order and feel good when
Hmm.
they go out or they travel. How can I take that and keep it better? And just really giving them that support. And so in the book, for some people this is really new. We kind of do like a 6-week blueprint, but we also say like, if you feel pretty good on some of the skills and you've checked the box, awesome, work on some of those things that you want to build up stronger in your repertoire. And if you feel like you need more time, I remember when our class switched to virtual and we started to go to every other week, the women like, this is kind of good because I have more time to work on my goals. I kind of like that other, remember
Yeah.
the every other week model.
Hmm.
You could do that with a 6-week plan. Maybe I'm going to try to do this over 12 weeks, 3 months, give myself some time to try new things. And the thing is, you're getting the benefit with every step you take. There's a benefit. And so the cool thing for us is sometimes at the end of the class, women who didn't eat in the morning, they're like, we started eating in the morning because of class and the food was really good. They started regulating their cycles, Michelle. It was
Yeah.
amazing. And one of our last live classes before COVID, I remember one table of four, they were all kind of waiting to get their cycles and things and getting ready for IVF. And they all went on to conceive. They all got their cycles and went on to conceive. And
Amazing.
that was just the cost of food and putting a little bit of time in. So that lifestyle does make a difference, whether someone's going for art treatment or they're just maximizing their fertility options.
Yeah, there was actually a study on girls in college that skipped breakfast and how it impacted their cycles. I thought that was interesting.
I would guess negatively. I'm thinking if they were skipping
Negatively,
food.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
negatively. Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
I
made
just
it
want to
more
check.
irregular. Most of them started regular and they
Hmm.
became irregular.
And people are getting into a lot of fads where they're really time boxing their food. I just talked to someone in a smaller body and she goes, I'm trying to eat clean, so I only eat between this time and this time. I go, but
Mhm.
you should eat when you're hungry. Your body needs nourishment
Mhm.
all day, not just 8 hours. So
Right.
sometimes we see people that are going too overboard and they're
Mhm.
restricting, and then their reproductive axis is not getting the nutrients it needs. And I'm like, that's not what you want to do for egg health. That's not what you want to do for reproductive health. If you feel
Yeah,
cold at night
absolutely. You
and
need the
you're
energy.
and as we know with acupuncture and Chinese medicine, energy is such an important concept. So if you're freezing all of a sudden and you're starving yourself, you're not nourishing your body.
Absolutely. And actually, in Ayurvedic medicine, they say that when the sun is out, that is when, because we respond to the elements.
Hmm.
And when the
Right.
sun is out, especially like around 12 p.m., you should have your largest meal because it
Hmm.
increases your own digestive fire because we get influenced by nature. And actually, the morning you should have breakfast, you should have
Hmm.
food during the day
Hmm.
when the digestive fire is increased the most. And when you shouldn't is as it gets darker, like a couple hours before you go to
Hmm.
sleep, that's when you can give your body a break.
Hmm.
So, it
Hmm.
kind of, according to Ayurveda, it's a little bit more
Hmm.
flipped than what's typically done, where people skip breakfast.
Right.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that exactly parallels some of the metabolic studies, right? So what
Hmm.
Ayurvedic medicine is known for so long, right?
Yeah.
And then Western medicine has to come and prove it that like our
Hmm.
digestion is better in the morning and the way glucose and nutrients are processed in the morning is better when we have more energy and we're more active throughout the day, and then at night things are winding down and slowing down and you want your body to relax for sleep and not be digesting a big meal. And we do talk about that, but it is really hard for people to flip to try and get more calories in earlier in the day and fewer at night when the
Hmm.
typical pattern is the opposite.
Yeah, and it's going to give them a lot more productivity and energy to have a good breakfast because you have protein, you got those good fiber,
Right.
vegetables, and berries, and really start your day right.
We encourage people if they're really set in their way. We're like, well, do it as an experiment. Be
Yeah.
curious. Try it on the
Right.
weekend. Maybe try it on the weekend because you don't want to change your flow. See how your energy feels, especially when people are telling us they're fatigued. They're like, I'm so
Hmm.
tired. And it's like, and most of their energy intake is at night. They wake up not hungry. We do try to flip that around. And that's part of that intuitive eating and eating competence and see where your body, because really people know a lot about their body. And so we want them to be in tune to that too and trust that.
And I was just going to add that, sometimes people have these ideas of what a typical breakfast, lunch, and dinner is and what food should be part of those meals. And we say, hey, that does not have to be the case either. I love a breakfast salad. I love eating my leftover dinner from the night before for breakfast. If I've made something delicious, I made this great stir fry and I've had a little bit because it's late, but I'm like, I want to have that for breakfast. I'm going to have a big bowl. So
Yeah.
I love having those other things early in the day because I do feel like it gives me great energy. And then the other thing that we talk about is, the walking after meals and especially getting outside early in the morning and getting that sunlight to really start your day and get your clock going, and how important those rhythms can be to
Mhm.
recognize that your body has a rhythm. Sleep consistency is important, exercise and movement throughout the day is important. All these other things that we want to build in, to our base for overall wellness to support fertility.
Yeah, I love it. I love it that you're a doctor and you're interested in this because unfortunately it's not as common. Like people don't know about all of these things about really connecting with nature and the nutrition aspect of it. So it's amazing. It's so well rounded because you have like so many different backgrounds and perspectives on
We
fertility.
yeah, we try to bring it all together, and that's why. This book would have been much longer if our publisher didn't say stop. It was like twice as long. You'll see when you're writing your book, you want to share everything. And so we did include 2 chapters on like boosters and disruptors, talking about stress and sleep. And then also some of the disruptors like, alcohol, cannabis, endocrine disruptors, because we didn't want to scare people, but we felt they needed to know. And, science based, evidence based. But we did put it at the end. We really focused on the food and feeding yourself because really that's what our program is all about. But we find that when they put it all together and they get to those boosters and they add the movement and the stress, and so many of our patients who do acupuncture will say, well, that's one of the ways. I always say, what do you get out of it? Because I always want to know. And they go, oh man, I'm such a good place. And I leave and my stress level is so much better. I go, then that's something you want to include in what you're doing for your health if you have the privilege and you have the accessibility to it. So we try to make everything accessible because
Yeah.
there's so many women and men who don't have access to medical care. When it comes to fertility, it's really the underprivileged do not have access or such limited access that we thought if we could at least cover the main things and it could be, available in libraries or, things like that and audiobooks, that would be a way that more people could really have that information.
Well, it's great information. Also, I love that it talks about combining foods. In Chinese medicine, we have a lot of formulas of herbs. So each herbal formula has different herbs and they work
Mm-hmm.
together as a symphony. And a lot of times they'll include ginger or digestive herbs to help
Mm-hmm.
assimilate. So working together in
Mm-hmm.
a certain symphony is what makes it that much more beneficial for the body. And I like how you talk about the importance of combining foods. We were talking about
Mm-hmm.
putting vegetables because if you just eat meat without vegetables, it's not going to be able to assimilate as well and digest as well without those vegetables helping that fiber.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The vegetables are actually pretty protective, right? So, I mean, there have been studies that look at people who eat just more of an all meat diet and then people who eat more of a vegetable based diet, but with meat. And the gut is healthier, right? If you incorporate those vegetables, because the fiber from the vegetables is so protective that then you are able to digest the meat and make use of the nutrients in the meat as well. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's great advice. And I think that, out here we're in Seattle. And so we have a lot of, we have a number of people who are trained in acupuncture. They are, trained in traditional Chinese medicine. And we have always basically said, gosh, I don't know that area, but I trust the practitioners in my area who know so much, who this has been around for so long, that
Mm-hmm.
let's combine and talk about the best of all worlds and support
Mm-hmm.
everybody's health. And then the same with fertility clinics. Like some people really are going to need that extra step of a traditional IVF clinic. They might need insemination, they might need IVF, and then all these other things are going to be supportive and enhance their success because
Mm-hmm.
it's so expensive. And the last thing you
It
want to have
is.
to do is multiple cycles. And so the more
Mm-hmm.
efficient you can make each cycle by bringing your best self forward into the process and taking the time. Like a lot of people, want to kind of take a lot of time to get to a fertility clinic. And then once they get there, they want IVF yesterday. Like they
Right.
want to be pregnant yesterday. And it's still really about the time and the investment in producing optimum health for you and your partner. And so that it might take a good 3 months, right, of preparation to say, let's make sure when you do IVF, if you need IVF and you're going to do it, that everything's as great
Mm-hmm.
as you can make it going into the cycle, instead of just like, oh, there's an opening next week, let's get started.
I
We
wish
really say
all
that.
reproductive endocrinologists spoke like you.
Oh, yeah. Well,
And
thank you.
she and she
Yeah.
and she walks the walk. For all the
Yeah.
patients we've had together, a lot of times after that initial consult, she'd be, okay, I want you to do, food for fertility and work on nutrition and lifestyle for 3 months. Let's see, what we can do with some of these biomarkers that are elevated in a very positive way. And then quite often during that 3 months, the woman starts cycling. I remember saying to Angela once years ago, I go, what if you put the fertility clinics out of business? I mean, we were kidding, when I said that. They have their roles, so please don't think I'm saying that. But we did, and she's like, great. She was like, wonderful. Let's help people on the easiest journey. Let's not, when someone gets sent to me and they've already had 3 failed IVFs for whatever reason, and they're like, okay, I want to work on my nutrition. I'm so happy to work with them, but I feel really bad because they're pretty wounded, because they've been pretty disappointed and let down. And sometimes it was something obvious that nobody ever brought up, their eating disorder, or their PCOS, that things could have been optimized first. So I think
Mhm.
that's where we all work together. So I feel like that's why when you work in integrative, practices, we work with, fertility yoga instructors that we really trust, and NDs and our dietitians, and we know which clinics aren't going to be weight shaming. We want to know, where can our patients put the best team together, where can they get support groups from Resolve or other organizations, so that they feel as fully supported as they go on this journey, because a lot of people never expected this. I went through
Mhm.
unexplained infertility for years, never thought that was in the bags for me, but it was like, you feel helpless. So having a community, and I think when we all work together interdisciplinary, and we know the best people to send our patients to, or best organizations, or how to check, we really help them. We really can help them. So why we're excited
It's
about
true.
your future book. Yes. I mean,
Yeah,
ours is coming first, but
absolutely.
yeah, looking
Yeah.
for resources is so important, Michelle.
And
It
right.
definitely.
And I think, those resources are great. And then also, if somebody is seeing somebody and it's not clicking, you know, it could be their doctor, it could be their dietitian, it could be whatever. You don't have to stay with the same person. You can
It's
Mhm,
actually
true.
go get another
mhm,
opinion. You might,
mhm,
click better and work better with someone else who has different information. Even it's
mhm,
not all the
mhm,
same. So each of us don't necessarily provide the same information, or
mhm,
it's an art and a science. And I think we all feel that we connect with
mhm.
people. It's so important, but we all connect differently. And as an individual, each person should really make the most of that, and really make that work for them. They're the ones, they're invested in it.
That is so true. Absolutely true. I've seen people who have been going for years to one reproductive endocrinologist, and then when they changed, different approach, different energy,
Mhm,
just like, and it was a different
mhm,
outcome.
Yep.
mhm.
Yeah,
It happens.
absolutely.
And if you make a change, no one's mad at you. We all
No.
want the same end result. I always tell them, all the clinics in this town, they're all friends. They all know each other, professionally. They all know each other. They're going to send your charts. They're not going to hold them back. Everybody does want a positive outcome, to take place.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I mean, not always the case, but when it is, it's amazing. And it's true, you really do have to find that alignment. And I
Hmm.
always say, it takes a village, and creating a team of different
Hmm.
people that can support you in different ways when going
Hmm.
through this. But of course, nutrition is so important. In Chinese
We all
medicine,
eat. Yeah,
yeah, we all eat, and we
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 all
eat for a
eat.
reason, a good reason,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
And the spleen and stomach are actually the center, and they're like the mother in a sense, the nurturer aspect of our bodies, and that is really where everything else gets built. They talk about pre-heaven chi, pre-heaven energy in the kidneys, and of course the kidneys are really important, but sustenance, the energy
Hmm.
with which we can sustain and increase after our genetics is food.
Right. And I think, that's just kind of being understood. I mean, I think in science, we now are recognizing, there's genetics and then there's epigenetics, which is how the genes are expressed.
Hmm.
And the epigenetics is how we influence which genes are
Hmm.
expressed. And that has to do with our nutrition, our stress. our sleep, our movement, our community, our mental disposition, our mental health, our optimism. All these things have a
Mhm.
huge impact in our health by the epigenetics. And I think people sometimes think it's just genetics and things are predetermined and it's going to be one way, and it's totally not. You have so much influence as an individual about what path your life can take and how
Mhm.
your health is affected by these decisions you make every day.
Which is so empowering, I think, to know that you
Mhm.
actually can have a hand in your health.
Mhm.
I was just thinking, we almost wanted to add a whole nother chapter on epigenetics, but we had to pull it back. So we just kind of sprinkled it in, the lifestyle things. But even when we work with people who are using donor eggs, their health will have an impact on these epigenetics. So that really empowering that mom, you are the full mom. Even with a donor egg, what you eat, your life, your health is going to have an impact on your baby. And I think that really helps people to know that.
That is such a good
That's
point.
power.
It's really true because it's all important. It's all
Hmm.
parts of the whole.
That's where you do have control, right, over your lifestyle and these some of these decisions, because you don't always have control over your fertility. I mean, certain aspects are just out of your control and you do feel that helplessness. And so I think where you can feel good and feel empowered is, these are the actions I can take. These are the steps I can take. I am making progress. I am growing as a person. I'm helping myself. I'm helping my community, whatever the case may be. I try to recommend not kind of losing yourself in just trying to get pregnant. Really
Mhm.
recognize yourself as a whole person and all the
Mm.
things you are providing to your community through purpose and service and love, and everything you're doing is just, it's key to who you are, and it brings you strength and peace, and that's just really great to know. And those are decisions you can make. That's not something out of your control.
That's so important, and thank you for bringing that up. And you guys, I could talk to you guys for hours because you know what I love. Well, first of all, your knowledge. You guys are very knowledgeable about what you're talking about, but the passion and the
Hmm.
compassion with which
Hmm.
you are operating. I think we both have one major thing in common is that we love this community, and it's a beautiful
Hmm.
community to serve.
Hmm.
And so, for
Hmm.
people who want to find you or read your book, how can they find you?
Well, the book is available at all major booksellers, and many of the independent ones request it. Gettingtobabybook.com. It will be released April 9th. So I'm not sure when this is released, but April 9th will be released. It can be pre-ordered. You can follow me at Fertile Nutrition or on my website, mindbodynutrition.com. And Angela?
And you can also request the book from your library. So libraries
Yes.
don't automatically stock books, but if
Mm-hmm.
individuals make a request to a library, the library can order the book. So that's something to know as well. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm at angelathieremd.com or at angelathieremd on Instagram.
Awesome. It was such a pleasure meeting the two of you. You guys are so nice and so knowledgeable and just really lovely to talk to. So, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks,
It's
Michelle.
been a
Thanks,
pleasure
Michelle.
talking to you as
Very
well.
nice.
So that concludes today's episode. You can find all of the links mentioned on the episode notes. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to share and leave a review. Reviews mean everything to podcasters, and I really enjoy hearing from my listeners. You can also find me on my website at www.thewholesomelotus.com or email me at info@thewholesomelotus.com. I love hearing from my listeners. If you're interested and want updates as well as a free ebook on my top 10 fertility boosting habits, you can visit my fertility page on www.thewholesomelotus.com. I thank you so much for listening in and hope that you have a beautiful day.